The sky above New Busan burned red with smoke and fire. Lieutenant Han Wu pressed his back against the broken concrete wall and tried to catch his breath. His rifle felt heavy in his hands. Around him, the sounds of war filled the air. Explosions echoed through the ruined streets. Laser fire crackled overhead. People were screaming. Han Wu looked at his friend Kim Dae, who crouched beside him. They had grown up together in this colony. They had played in these same streets as children. Now those streets were covered with rubble and death. How many of them are left out there? Kim Dae asked. His voice shook a little. Han Wu peered around the wall. In the distance he could see the tall shapes of Kalari soldiers moving between the buildings. The aliens were twice as tall as humans. Their blue-gray skin looked like stone in the dim light. They carried weapons that could cut through metal like paper. Too many, Han Wu said quietly. The war had been going on for 3 years. The Kalari Empire wanted human colonies for their resources. They said humans were weak and did not deserve to keep their worlds. At first, the human military had fought them in space. But the aliens were stronger. They had better ships and better weapons. One by one, human colonies fell. New Busan was the last one fighting. Han Wu thought about his mother. Dr. Lee Su was somewhere in the underground shelters with the other civilians. She was treating wounded people down there. He hoped she would stay safe no matter what happened to him. Lieutenant, a voice called from behind them. Han Wu turned to see Sergeant Park Young running toward them. The older man's uniform was torn and bloody. He carried bad news on his face. The east wall is broken, Park Young said between heavy breaths. They broke through with their big guns. Captain ordered all units to fall back to the center of town. Han Wu felt his heart sink. The east wall was their strongest defense. If the Kalari had broken through there, it meant they were almost surrounded. How long do we have? Kim Dae asked. Park Young shook his head. Maybe an hour, maybe less. Han Wu looked around at what was left of his unit. 12 soldiers had started the day with him. Now only 5 remained. They were tired and running out of ammunition. Most of them were very young, barely 20 years old. But they were not giving up. Listen to me, Han Wu told his men. We knew this day might come. We knew we might not win this war. But we are not fighting just to win. We are fighting for our families, for our home, for the right to exist. The soldiers nodded. Fear was in their eyes, but so was determination. If we must die today, we die as humans. We die protecting what we love. A new sound reached them from the east. It was the heavy footsteps of Kalari troops marching in formation. The ground shook slightly with each step. Han Wu checked his rifle. One more time, he had maybe 30 shots left. Kim Dae had even fewer. It would not be enough, but it would have to do. Move out, Han Wu ordered. They ran through the broken streets toward the town center. All around them, other human soldiers were doing the same thing. Some were carrying wounded comrades. Others were just trying to find a good place to make their last stand. The town center had once been a beautiful place. There was a small park with trees and flowers. Children used to play there while their parents sat on benches and talked. Now the trees were burning and the benches were overturned. Han Wu's unit took position behind an overturned truck. From there, they could see 3 different streets that led into the center. The Kalari would have to come down those streets. To reach them, they waited. The first aliens appeared 5 minutes later. They moved carefully, checking every doorway and window for human soldiers. Their long arms held energy weapons that glowed with deadly power. Hold your fire until I give the order, Han Wu whispered. More Kalari came into view, then more. Soon there were at least 30 of them spread across the 3 streets. They were getting closer. Han Wu could see their faces now. The aliens had large eyes that could see in the dark. Their mouths were full of sharp teeth. But what struck him most was how young some of them looked. Not all the Kalari soldiers were old warriors. Some seemed barely adults by their species standards. One young Kalari was closer than the others. He moved with less confidence than his older comrades. His weapon was smaller too. Han Wu found himself looking directly at this young alien soldier. For just a moment, Their eyes met across the battlefield. "Fire!" Han Wu shouted. The battle exploded around them. Human rifles cracked and sparked. Kalari energy weapons hummed and flashed. The air filled with smoke and the smell of burning metal. Han Wu aimed at the older Kalari soldiers first. They were the most dangerous. But he kept seeing that young alien in the corner of his vision, the young one who had looked so uncertain. Kim Dae cried out beside him. A Kalari energy blast had hit his shoulder. He was still alive, but badly hurt. "Stay down," Han Wu yelled to his friend. The Kalari were getting closer. Their weapons were more powerful than human rifles. Slowly, they were winning this fight just like they had won all the others. Han Wu's rifle clicked empty. He reached for his last ammunition clip and slammed it into place. Around him, his soldiers were falling one by one. Park Young was hit, in the chest. 2 more soldiers went down almost at the same time. Soon it was just Han Wu and Kim Dae left behind the truck. "We need to move," Han Wu said. "They will surround us if we stay here." Kim Dae nodded weakly. His wounded shoulder was bleeding badly, but he could still fight. They ran toward a pile of concrete blocks that had once been part of a building. As they ran, Han Wu saw the young Kalari soldier again. The alien was also moving, trying to get a better position. Both soldiers reached cover at the same time. They were now only a few meters apart, separated by broken concrete and twisted metal. Han Wu could hear the young Kalari breathing hard. The alien was scared too. In that moment, Han Wu realized something strange. This enemy soldier was probably just as frightened as he was, just as far from home, just as unsure if he would live through the day. But the war would not stop for such thoughts. The young Kalari appeared around the edge of his cover, weapon raised. Han Wu was ready. They fired, at the same time. Both shots found their targets. The silence after battle was worse than the noise during it. Dr. Li Su climbed out of the underground shelter and looked at what remained of her world. Smoke drifted through empty streets. Buildings stood like broken teeth against the gray sky. The smell of burning metal and worse things filled the air. She had been a doctor for 20 years. She had seen death many times. But this was different. This was her home. These were her people scattered across the ground like discarded toys. Li Su walked carefully through the rubble. Her medical bag hung heavy on her shoulder. Inside were bandages and medicine that no longer mattered. The fighting was over. The humans had lost. But she had to find her son. "Han Wu," she called softly. Her voice sounded small in the empty streets. "Han Wu, where are you?" She had raised him alone after his father died in a mining accident. Han Wu had been only 12 then. Now he was 25 and a soldier. Had been a soldier. Li Su tried not to think about what that meant. Behind her, she could hear the heavy footsteps of Kalari troops. They were searching the area too, looking for any humans who might still be alive and fighting. Li Su kept walking. She was a civilian. She was no threat to anyone. The town center was the worst. Bodies lay everywhere. Human and Kalari mixed, together in death. Li Su had to be careful where she stepped. She looked at each human face she passed. Some were soldiers she recognized. Others were too damaged to identify. Her heart stopped when she saw a familiar uniform behind an overturned truck. "No," she whispered. But it was him. Han Wu lay on his back, eyes closed, still holding his rifle. A burn mark across his chest showed, where the Kalari energy weapon had hit him. Li Su dropped her medical bag and ran to him. She knelt beside her son and touched his face. His skin was already cold. She had been too late. All her years of medical training meant nothing now. She could not bring back the dead. Li Su pulled Han Wu's head into her lap and began to cry. 25 years of memories flooded through her mind. His first steps. His first day of school. The day he joined the Colonial Defense Force. The last time she had seen him alive, just 3 days ago when he told her everything would be okay. I'm sorry," she whispered to him. "I am so sorry I could not save you." As she held her son, something made her look up. A few meters away, another body lay in the rubble. This one was different. taller, blue-gray skin. A Kalari soldier, also young by the look of him. Li Su studied the alien's position. His weapon had fallen beside him. One of his long arms reached toward where Han Wu lay, as if he had been trying to crawl in that direction when he died. The Kalari had a burn mark on his side. Han Wu's rifle had found its target too. They had killed each. Other Li Su felt something strange as she looked at the dead alien. Not hatred, not anger, just sadness. This Kalari soldier looked young, probably not much older than Han Wu, someone's son, fighting far from home. Heavy footsteps approached. Li Su looked up to see a group of Kalari soldiers walking toward her. They were led by a tall alien wearing different armor than the others. This one had scars on his face and moved with the confidence of a veteran warrior. The lead Kalari stopped when he saw Li Su holding her son. He spoke to the others in their clicking language. Li Su did not understand the words, but she could hear the tone. Confusion, maybe curiosity. The scarred Kalari stepped closer. He was enormous compared to Li Su. His weapon could have killed her in an instant, but he did not raise it. Instead, he looked down at her with large dark eyes. Li Su met his gaze without fear. What more could they do to her? They had already taken everything that mattered. The Kalari general spoke in broken, human words. You, woman, why you here? Dangerous. My son, Li Su said simply. She gestured to Han Wu's body. The general looked at Han Wu, then at the young Kalari soldier nearby. His expression changed slightly. Recognition of some kind. Your offspring. Dead, the general said. It was not a question. Li Su nodded. Fresh tears ran down her cheeks. The general studied her for a long moment. In Kalari culture, the families of dead enemies were not treated with kindness. They were often killed or enslaved. But this human woman showed no fear. Only grief. You, go now, the general said. Not safe here. But Li Su did not move. She looked at her son's face one more time, then gently closed his eyes. With careful movements, she laid his head on the ground and stood up. The Kalari soldiers tensed. They thought she might try to attack or run. Instead, Li Su walked over to the dead young Kalari. No, the general said sharply. Not touch. Li Su ignored him. She knelt beside the alien soldier and looked at his wounds. The burn from Han Wu's rifle had gone deep. He would have died quickly. She hoped it had not hurt too much. Gently, she closed the young Kalari's eyes too. The general made a sound of anger or confusion. His soldiers muttered to each other. This was not normal behavior. Humans were supposed to hate Kalari. They were enemies. Li Su stood up and looked at the general again. He was young, she said quietly. Like my son. The general did not understand all her words, but something in her voice made him pause. This human woman was treating his dead warrior with the same care she had shown her own child. Why? The general asked. Li Su looked at both bodies lying so close together. Han Wu and the young Kalari. Two sons who would never go home. Because he was someone's child too, she said. The general stared at her. In 3 years of war, no human had ever spoken to him like this. With sadness instead of hatred. With understanding instead of anger. Li Su picked up her medical bag and looked around the battlefield. So much death. So much waste. 2 young lives ended for nothing. She made a decision that would change everything. I need to bury them, she said. The general tilted his head. What? Both of them. They died together. They should rest together. And, despite every rule of war and conquest, the Kalari general found himself curious to see what this strange human mother would do next. Li Su began her work without asking permission. She had made her decision and nothing would stop her now. The Kalari general and his soldiers watched as she knelt beside Han Wu's body and began to clean his wounds with supplies from her medical bag. She worked with gentle hands, the same way she had cleaned his scraped knees when he was a little boy. The burn mark on his chest was terrible, but she covered it with clean cloth. She combed his hair with her fingers and straightened his uniform. "My brave boy," she whispered as she worked. "You fought so hard. You can rest now." When she finished, with Han Wu, she moved to the young Kalari soldier. The general stepped forward as if to stop her, but something made him pause. Maybe it was the way she moved, so careful, so respectful. Li Su had never touched a Kalari before. Their skin felt different than human skin, rougher, like leather, but she cleaned his wounds the same way she had cleaned her son's. She straightened his armor and folded his long arms across his chest. The Kalari soldiers began to mutter among themselves. Some sounded angry, others just confused. They had never seen an enemy treat their dead with honor. Li Su ignored them. She had work to do. She looked around the battlefield until she found what she needed: a broken piece of metal that could work as a shovel, a chunk of concrete she could use to break up hard ground. It would not be easy, but she had buried her husband many years ago. She knew how to dig a grave. The question was where to dig it. Li Su walked around the area until she found a small patch of ground that had once been part of the town park. Most of the grass was burned away, but the soil looked soft enough to dig. There had been flowers here once. She remembered bringing Han Wu to this spot when he was young to feed the birds. It seemed like the right place. Li Su began to dig. The work was hard for a woman her age. The metal piece was not a good shovel. Her hands soon became cut and bloody, but she kept going. As she dug, she began to hum. It was an old Korean lullaby her mother had sung to her. The same song she had sung to Han Wu when he had nightmares as a child. The melody was soft and sad, but also full of love. The Kalari general found himself listening to the sound. He did not understand the words, but music was something all species shared. This was the sound of grief, of love, of a mother saying goodbye to her child. "General Vextar," one of his soldiers said in their clicking language, "should we stop her? This is not proper." General Vextar was the scarred Kalari who had first spoken to Li Su. He looked at the human woman digging in the dirt and singing to the dead. By all the rules of war, he should make her stop. Dead enemies did not deserve honor. They deserved to rot where they fell. But something about this scene made him hesitate. "Let her continue," he said finally. "I want to see what she does." His soldiers did not understand, but they obeyed. More Kalari troops arrived as word spread about the strange human woman in the town center. Soon there were dozens of alien soldiers watching Li Su dig. She was making 2 graves side by side, each one the right size for the body that would go in it. The work took hours. Several times she had to stop and rest. Her back ached and her hands bled, but she never complained. "Why does she do this?" asked Subcommander Vaktel, who had just arrived with reinforcements. "Why show honor to our warrior?" General Vextar shook his head. "I do not know, but I have never seen anything like it." As the sun began to set, Li Su finished digging. The graves were not perfect, but they were deep enough and wide enough. She climbed out of the holes and looked at her work. Now came the hardest part. Li Su went to Han Wu first. He was not a big man, but he was still heavy. She struggled to lift him, but somehow managed to carry him to his grave. She lowered him down as gently as she could, then climbed down beside him to arrange his body properly. "Sleep well, my son," she said. "I will see you again someday." She climbed out and went to the young Kalari. He was much heavier than Han Wu. Li Su tried to lift him but could not manage it alone. She looked at the watching Kalari soldiers. Most of them stared back with expressions she could not read, but one stepped forward. He was younger than the others, with fewer scars on his armor. "I help," he said in broken human speech. General Vextar started to object, but the young soldier was already moving. He bent down and carefully lifted his dead comrade. Li Su guided him to the second grave, and together they lowered the body down. "Thank you," Li Su said to the young soldier. He looked surprised to be thanked by a human. He nodded once and stepped back. Li Su climbed into the Kalari's grave to arrange his body the same way she had arranged Han Wu's. She did not know Kalari burial customs, so she did what felt right. She crossed his arms and made sure his face was peaceful. As she worked, she continued humming her lullaby. The sound echoed softly in the growing darkness. "Rest now, young warrior," she said to the dead alien. "You are far from home, but you are not alone." She climbed out and began to fill both graves with dirt. This was easier work than digging, but it was also the most final. With each shovelful of earth, she was saying goodbye forever. Some of the watching Kalari began to leave. They had seen enough strangeness for one day. But General Vextar remained. So did Subcommander Vaktel and several others. As Li Su worked, Vaktel moved closer to General Vextar. "The dead one," Vaktel said quietly. "I know him. His name was Zekra. He was my brother's offspring. Just reached warrior age last season." General Vextar looked at his sub-commander with surprise. "Your nephew?" "Yes. He volunteered for this mission. Wanted to prove himself in battle." Vaktel's voice carried pain. He was barely more than a juvenile. His parents will never see him again. They watched as Li Su patted down the earth over both graves. She worked by moonlight now, but she did not stop until both mounds were even and smooth. When she finished, she sat between the two graves and continued her lullaby. She sang for both boys now, for Han Wu and for Zekra, for all the children who had died in this terrible war. General Vextar found himself moved by something he had never felt before. This human mother had lost everything, but she still showed kindness to her enemy. She had buried a Kalari warrior with the same love she showed her own son. In 3 years of war, he had never seen anything like it. And for the first time since the fighting began, General Vextar wondered if they had been wrong about humans. Maybe they were not the weak, hateful creatures the Empire had told them about. Maybe they were something else entirely. The moon was high when Sub-Commander Vaktel finally approached the graves. Li Su had finished her lullaby, and now sat quietly between the two mounds of earth. She looked up as the tall Kalari warrior came near. Vaktel moved slowly, carefully. He did not want to frighten the human woman. When he reached the grave that held his nephew, he stopped and stared down at the fresh dirt. Li Su watched him. Even without understanding Kalari expressions, she could see his pain. It was the same grief she felt, the same loss that cut deep into the heart. She had seen it in the mirror often enough to recognize it in others. "Zekra," Vaktel said softly. The name came out as a series of clicks and whistles, but Li Su understood it was a name. "That was his name?" she asked gently. Vaktel looked at her. His large dark eyes were wet with tears that looked just like human tears. "Yes, Zekra, my brother's son. Very young, very brave." Li Su nodded. "Han Wu," she said, touching the earth above her son's grave. "My son, also young, also brave." They sat in silence for a moment, two beings from different worlds sharing the same sorrow. Vaktel reached into a pouch on his armor and pulled out something small. It was a piece of metal carved with Kalari symbols. Li Su could see it was worn smooth from being touched many times. "Zekra's," Vaktel explained. "His, how you say, good luck charm, made by his mother before he left home." He held the charm for a moment, looking at it in the moonlight. Then, to Li Su's surprise, he offered it to her. "No," Li Su said, pushing his hand gently back toward him. "That belongs with his family, with you." But Vaktel shook his head. "You give him honor. You treat him like your own child. His mother would want you to have this." Li Su looked at the carved metal. It was beautiful in its own way. She could see the love that had gone into making it. "Are you sure?" she asked. Vaktel nodded and placed the charm in her hands. The metal was warm from his touch. Li Su held the charm for a moment, then leaned forward and placed it gently on Zekra's grave. "Thank you," she said. "But I think he should keep it with him, to remember home." Vaktel made a sound that might have been crying or might have been something else. In his culture, warriors did not show such emotion. But he was far from his culture now, sitting beside the grave of his nephew who had been buried by an enemy, with more kindness than he had ever received from his own people. General Vextar had been watching from a distance. Now he approached the graves as well. Li Su looked up at him without fear, though he towered over her like a mountain. "You," Vextar said in his broken human speech. "Why you do this thing? We are enemies. We kill your people. We take your world." Li Su stood up slowly. Her knees ached from sitting on the hard ground. "Yes," she said simply. "You did those things." "Then why?" Vexatar pressed. "Why you show honor to our dead?" Li Su looked at both graves. "Because he was someone's child, just like my Han Wu was my child. They both had mothers who loved them. They both had dreams and hopes. The war made them enemies, but death makes them equal." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "I am a doctor. I have seen many people die, human people. In the end, we all want the same things. We want to be loved. We want to be remembered. We want our lives to matter." Vexatar translated her words for the other Kalari soldiers who had gathered around. Some of them shifted uncomfortably. This was not how they thought about enemies. "Your son," Vextar said. "He killed Zekra." "Yes," Li Su agreed. "And Zekra killed my son. They were soldiers. They did what soldiers do. But now they are both dead. The killing is finished. What remains is two mothers who will never see their children again." She looked up at Vextar's scarred face. "Do you have children, General?" The question caught him off guard. Yes. 3 offspring. On homeworld." "Then you understand. You know what it feels like to love someone more than your own life. You know what it would mean to lose them." Vextar was quiet for a long time. He thought about his own children, safe on the Kalari homeworld. He thought about getting the message that one of them had died in battle on some distant world. He thought about never seeing them again. "If my child died here," Li Su continued, "and I was far away, I would hope someone would treat his body with respect. I would hope someone would remember that he was loved." More Kalari soldiers had arrived during the night. Word was spreading through their forces about the human woman who had buried one of their warriors. Some came out of curiosity, others came because they had lost friends in the battle and wanted to see what she had done. Among them was an older Kalari, with many scars and decorations on his armor. This was War Commander Thexal, Vextar's superior. He had come to see this strange sight for himself. "General Vextar," Thexal said in their language, "what is the meaning of this? Why are you allowing this human to perform burial rites for our warrior?" Vextar looked at his commander, then at Li Su, then at the graves. "She shows honor to the dead, War Commander. Both dead. Her enemy and her child, treated the same." "It is not our way," Thexal said firmly. "Enemies do not deserve honor." "But what if we are wrong?" Vextar asked quietly. The words hung in the air like a challenge. Several Kalari soldiers looked shocked. Questioning the Empire's teachings about enemies was dangerous. But Vextar continued. "Look at her, War Commander. Does she look like the hateful, weak creature our leaders told us about? She could have cursed us. She could have tried to hurt us. Instead, she shows kindness to our dead." Thexal studied Li Su carefully. She sat quietly between the graves, not trying to run or fight. Just a middle-aged woman who had lost her child and chosen to respond with grace instead of rage. "What does she want from us?" Thexal asked. Vextar translated the question. Li Su looked up at both Kalari commanders. "Nothing," she said simply. "I want nothing from you. My son is dead. Your war is won. I just wanted both boys to have a proper burial. They deserved that much." When Vextar translated her answer, Thexal was quiet for a long time. Finally, the War Commander spoke. "In 60 years of military service, I have never seen anything like this. Perhaps we should reconsider what we know about humans." He turned to leave, then stopped. General Vextar continued to observe this situation, report everything to High Command. They need to know what you have witnessed here. As Thexol walked away, Vextar realized that everything was about to change. The war might be won, but the real battle was just beginning. The battle to understand what humanity really meant. And it had all started with a mother's love for her dead son, extended without reservation to the enemy who had killed him. Dawn broke gray and cold over New Busan. Li Su had not slept. She remained sitting between the two graves, keeping watch over her son and the young Kalari warrior. Her body ached and her eyes burned with exhaustion, but she would not leave them alone. General Vextar had also stayed through the night. He stood at a respectful distance, watching the human mother and thinking about everything he had seen. His soldiers had set up a perimeter around the area, but they kept their weapons lowered. Somehow this place had become sacred. As the sun rose higher, Li Su finally stood up. Her legs were stiff from sitting so long. She brushed dirt from her clothes and looked at both graves one more time. "I have to go now," she said quietly, speaking to the dead. "But I will come back. I will take care of you both." She turned to leave, but General Vextar stepped into her path. "Wait," he said. "I must ask you something." Li Su looked up at the tall alien commander. "What do you want to know?" Vextar struggled with the human words. His question was important, but the language was difficult. "Your people, all humans, they are like you?" "What do you mean? You show kindness to enemy? You treat our dead with honor? Other humans, they do same thing?" Li Su thought about the question. "Some would. Not all. Humans are different from each other, just like I imagine Kalari are different from each other. Some humans are kind, some are cruel, some are brave, some are afraid. But most of us, when we see someone suffering, we want to help." She paused. "What about your people? Are all Kalari the same?" Vextar shook his head. "No. Some warriors love battle. Others fight only because they must. Some hate enemies, others—" He gestured toward Sub-Commander Vaktel, who was still kneeling beside his nephew's grave. "Others feel pain when young ones die." "Then we are not so different," Li Su said simply. Vextar stared at her. In those few words, she had said something that changed everything he thought he knew about this war. "General," one of his communications officers called. "High Command wants to speak with you. Urgent message." Vextar nodded. "I must go. But first—" He looked at Li Su. "What is your name, human mother?" "Li Su." "Li Su," he repeated carefully. "I will remember you. I will remember what you did here." "And I will remember Zekra," Li Su replied. "And you, General Vextar." Vextar walked to his command post, leaving Li Su alone with the graves. She knelt one more time and touched both mounds of earth. "I love you, Hanwu," she whispered. "And you, young Zekra, your family loves you too. Rest in peace, both of you." At the Kalari command post, General Vextar activated the long-range communicator. The holographic image of High Admiral Kexmore appeared, his ancient face marked with the scars of 100 battles. "General Vextar," the admiral said, "you have been silent for many hours. What is your status?" "The human colony has fallen, High Admiral. Resistance is ended." "Good. Begin standard occupation procedures. Execute any remaining military personnel and prepare the civilians for transport to labor camps." Vextar hesitated. Those had been his orders from the beginning. But now, after what he had witnessed, the words felt wrong in his throat. "High Admiral, I must report something unusual." "Speak quickly. I have other battles to oversee." Vextar told the story of Li Su and the burial. He described how she had treated the dead Kalari warrior with the same honor as her own son. He explained how her actions had affected his soldiers, how even War Commander Thexol had been moved by what he saw. High Admiral Kexmore listened in silence. When Vextar finished, the old warrior was quiet for a long time. "This human mother," Kexmore said finally. "She could have escaped while you watched her bury the dead?" "Yes, High Admiral. Many times. She could have tried to kill Kalari soldiers while they mourned. Yes, we were vulnerable. She could have taken weapons from the battlefield, but she chose to show honor to our dead instead. Yes, High Admiral. Kexmore was quiet again. Finally he spoke. General, in my long life I have conquered 40 worlds. I have seen every kind of enemy. The brave ones who fight to the death, the cowardly ones who surrender immediately, the cruel ones who torture prisoners, the desperate ones who use their own people as shields. He paused. But I have never heard of an enemy who shows kindness to our dead. This is something new. What are your orders, High Admiral? Kexmore thought for several minutes. Delay the occupation procedures. Do not harm any more humans for now. I must speak with the High Council about this. The hologram flickered and disappeared. Vextar stared at the empty air where his commander's image had been. In 30 years of military service, he had never heard High Admiral Kexmore express doubt about anything. 3 days later, the call came back. This time, it was not just High Admiral Kexmore on the communication line. The entire High Council of the Kalari Empire was listening. General Vextar, Kexmore said, the Council has reviewed your report. We have also spoken with War Commander Thexal and Sub-Commander Vaktel. All three of you tell the same story about this human mother. Yes, High Admiral. The Council wishes to know, do you believe other humans would act the same way? Vextar thought about Li Su's words. Some would, High Admiral. Perhaps many. They are not the creatures we were told about. They have capacity for great kindness even to enemies. And what do you recommend we do with this information? This was the moment that would change everything. Vextar thought about his own children on the homeworld. He thought about all the young Kalari who had died in this war. He thought about all the human children who would never grow up. High Admiral, I recommend we end this war. Not through conquest, but through negotiation. If humans can show honor to our dead, perhaps we can find honor in making peace with their living. The Council debated for hours. Finally, High Admiral Kexmore returned to the communication. General Vextar, you are ordered to establish contact with surviving human leadership. Inform them that the Kalari Empire wishes to discuss terms for ending hostilities. Full negotiations will begin immediately. Vextar could hardly believe what he was hearing. High Admiral, are you certain? The human mother showed us something we had forgotten, General. That enemies can choose to be something else. Today, we make that same choice. Within a week, representatives from both species were meeting in neutral space. The negotiations were difficult, but both sides were motivated by the memory of 2 graves on New Busan. 2 young soldiers who had killed each other, but were buried side by side with equal love. The war officially ended 6 months later. The Kalari withdrew from human colonies and agreed to pay reparations for the damage they had caused. In return, humans agreed to share certain technologies and resources that both species needed. But for Li Su, none of that mattered as much as the small garden she planted around the 2 graves. She had stayed on New Busan to help rebuild the colony. Every day, she visited Han Wu and Zekra, bringing them flowers and news of the growing peace between their peoples. Sometimes Kalari ships would land at the colony. Young Kalari warriors would come to see the graves where everything had changed. They would stand quietly and think about the human mother who had shown them what honor really meant. And sometimes, on quiet evenings when the wind was right, Li Su would sit between the graves and hum her old lullaby. The song that had comforted her son in life now comforted 2 sons in death. 2 warriors who had found peace at last, not in victory, but in the simple recognition that they were both somebody's children. The war had ended not with weapons or treaties, but with a mother's love that was strong enough to see past the uniform, to the person underneath. Strong enough to bury enemies as friends. Strong enough to change the course of history with nothing more than dignity, respect, and the universal language of grief shared between mothers across the stars.